224 people are dead after a Russian jetliner crashes in Egypt. The LA Department of Water and Power is increasing water rates. A new Senate bill may tax California drivers based on how many miles they drive.
This is Valley View News.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Joanna Guzman.
And I'm Helen Mora.
More than 220 people have been killed after a Russian jetliner broke into pieces over Egypt. There were no survivors. Flight 9268 was flying from the Egypt resort of Sharm el-Sheikh to St. Petersburg when it suddenly dropped off radar 25 minutes into the flight. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board says the disaster could have been caused by a maintenance problem or an explosion in one of the jet's fuel tanks.
The U.S. has announced a new offensive to try to free Syria's Hasaka province from ISIS. The terrorist group has held the territory for more than a year. Kurdish forces are teaming with the U.S. to interrupt ISIS supply lines. The U.S. and the Kurds hope to eventually retake the city of Mosul in Iraq. It's the largest city controlled by ISIS.
A man has been arrested for attacking an Uber driver in Orange County. The assault was captured by the driver's dashboard camera and was posted on YouTube. The video shows the passenger hitting the driver several times. Reports say the two were arguing over directions when the attack happened. The driver pepper sprayed the passenger and then asked him to get out of the car. Passenger Benjamin Golden was taken into custody in Costa Mesa.
Authorities have arrested nearly 500 concertgoers at two music festivals, one in Pomona, the other in San Bernardino. Most of the arrests were for public intoxication, possession of illegal drugs, or carrying a fake ID. Authorities arrested about 320 people during 2 days of the Hard Day of the Dead rave. Another 180 people were detained at a rave known as Escape. Both festivals draw more than 40,000 people each year.
Los Angeles County workers could receive a 10% raise if a tentative labor pact is approved. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors will vote on pay raises for firefighters, sheriff deputies, and other county workers. The largest county workers union still needs to ratify the pact, which would then go before the supervisors for approval. County staff did not lay out the total cost of the agreements that the supervisors will vote on. If the pact is approved, workers would also get an extra day of vacation and a new paid holiday.
A new gas station in Afghanistan cost U.S. taxpayers more than $40 million. A U.S. Special Inspector General report says the money was spent building just one natural gas filling station. Compressed natural gas is 50% cheaper and burns cleaner than regular gas. But the station in Afghanistan cost 140 times more than a similar station built in Pakistan. The Department of Defense has been unable to provide an explanation for the high cost of the project.
Conserving water is supposed to lead to lower utility bills, but Los Angeles residents will in fact see an increase in rates. Valley View News reporter Amy Martinez tells us why.
California has been fighting severe drought for nearly 2 years. The city of Los Angeles has been meeting or beating Governor Jerry Brown's goal to use 25% less water each month. And as a reward, the LADWP has recently announced a new water rate increase. This means the average customer will see a 4% increase in their monthly bill, but many residents say it's more of a punishment.
I don't really agree with it. I think that the fact that we've been doing our part in conserving water and then they want to penalize us for it is not really correct. I think they should be finding people out there that are not doing their part in the areas that are still watering their lawns and not doing the efforts.
Several residents replaced their green lawns in artificial turf for California-friendly plants that help save money and, most importantly, conserve water. This resident says she and her husband have stopped washing their car and only dust it now to aid in conservation. There are plenty of things Angelinos do indoors as well.
Turning off the water, while washing hands, while brushing teeth. When we're starting the showers before the hot water comes, a lot of times we'll capture that water ourselves and use it for watering in our plants, doing dishes, different things like that instead of losing and wasting that.
The Department of Water and Power says increases necessary to make up for the $110 million they lost in revenue. But consumers aren't happy with the solution.
They wanted us to conserve water. They should have warned us that by doing so, they were going to lose money and in turn increase their rates.
This new increase is actually in addition to another overall rate hike that would be used to fix infrastructure. It will take effect beginning in 2016. Despite this new water rate increase, DWP officials say the average consumer will still be paying about $3 less compared to the 2013 fiscal year. In downtown Los Angeles, Amy Martinez, Valley View News.
A Los Angeles area doctor has been convicted of murder in connection with the prescription drug overdose deaths of 3 patients. Prosecutors say this is the first time in the U.S. that a doctor has been convicted of murder for recklessly prescribing drugs to patients. Xiu Ying Sing, also known as Lisa, was found guilty on 23 counts, including 19 counts of unlawful controlled substance prescriptions.
A teenage girl in Oregon is recovering from bubonic plague. The teen got sick 5 days after she went on a hunting trip. Health officials say plague is rare in Oregon, but is common in New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. Plague is carried by squirrels and other rodents and spread by their fleas. The CDC says there have been 15 other human cases of the plague in America this year.
CSUN is taking action following a recent assault on campus.
Juanique Elliott is in Studio B with Executive Director of Strength Unified Chartered at Cal State Northridge, Kim Roth, who is giving tips on how to stay safe on campus.
Thank you. So today we're here with Kim Roth. She's the Executive Director of a community agency called Strength United. And Strength United is chartered through the Michael D. Eisner School of Education here at CSUN. And we just have a couple questions. So the first question we want to ask is, how has the recent assaults on CSUN's campus changed the atmosphere at CSUN?
I believe that whenever we have sexual assault anywhere, people become a little bit more vigilant, they become a little bit more concerned about their personal safety, and they also want to receive additional information that they hope will keep them safe. And the campus has been doing a very good job in providing that information to students, both through President Harrison's email on October the 13th and also through the Women's Center held a town hall last week, and there is a town hall coming up on November the 5th as well.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful. And how can students prevent this from happening again?
You know, prevention's a difficult concept when we think about rape and sexual assault because it's the behavior of one person. So we have to make sure that we don't blame the victim for what occurred to them. And it's oftentimes very difficult to control the behavior of somebody else. However, this is an issue of our community. And so I think when we look for community solutions, we can feel safer. One of those solutions would be to think about our bystander responsibility. So just as we would have a dedicated driver when we go out as a group, we should have a dedicated person who's keeping an eye on all of us and our friends. If we go to a party and we see that someone, a friend of ours, is maybe being taken from the party, we're unclear if that's with their consent or not, we should step in and find out what's going on. So I think one of the prevention strategies is to enhance our collective safeguarding of each other.
Very true. And the last question is, what actions were taken after this event occurred?
There are many actions that have been occurring on CSUN's campus for a long time. In fact, CSUN would be considered a leader in terms of the response and prevention of sexual violence on campus. We're a rape crisis center. This is the only CSU system that has a rape crisis center as part of its functioning. Other things occurring on campus under President Harrison's leadership is the Sexual Violence Prevention Committee. There are groups such as Project Date. There are events such as Shine a Light. There are Matador, Upstander, Bystander responsibility programs. There is ongoing education out of the Office of Equity and Diversity for staff, faculty, and students. We also have each year freshmen receive training around sexual assault prevention. So I would say that our activities on campus are quite vibrant.
For people that need assistance, what resources are available to them?
Yes, thankfully on campus we have a campus care advocate. Her name is Katie LaRue, and she is available to speak to anyone who has experienced sexual violence or knows of someone that's experienced sexual violence and would like support or understanding of the process. And she can be reached at 818-677-7492, or our own organization's 24/7 hotline is available on 818-886-0453. And we would want our audience to know that no one needs to be alone if they've ever experienced sexual violence.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for this interview. We enjoyed having you. Back to you guys.
Thank you. Tired of paying a gas tax? Why not pay per mile? Valley View News reporter Alexi Chibachin tells us why California drivers may start paying more.
The longer you drive, the more you pay. A new Senate bill could start charging drivers a tax based on how many miles they drive. The California State Legislature and the California Transportation Commission have launched the California Road Charge Pilot Program to help find ways to replace the gas tax with a mileage tax. Instead of drivers paying for a tax for the amount of gas they consume, they will be paying for the number of miles they drive.
From the state's perspective, the mileage tax might be a good idea because it has other benefits besides simply collecting tax revenue. So from the public's perspective, a mileage tax might also reduce the number of miles people drive, and that would have a positive benefit in terms of reducing air pollution, reducing traffic congestion.
The purpose of the road charge program is to have drivers help fund for the maintenance of roads. The money collected from the road charge will go into helping repair potholes in roads.
The California Transportation Commission has said gas tax has become an insufficient way of collecting revenue due to the increase in fuel-efficient vehicles. So what does this mean for owners of fuel-efficient vehicles? They could be spending a lot more at the pump.
They didn't really say how much per mile you're going to be paying. So if it's less than gas, then I think, yeah, they're going to be benefiting, just saving money overall. But if it's gas usage kind of thing, if it's more, then it's going to be a negative for everybody.
The state has not yet decided how the tax would be collected, but it could involve setting a GPS in cars. However, people are also concerned that it could be an invasion of privacy.
Instead, it would probably be some kind of device that doesn't capture where you're going, just simply captures, the change on your odometer every time you fill up with gas, and you pay a certain amount for that.
Thousands of drivers will volunteer to test out the pilot program for a year. After that year, the state will examine the results and decide if the state should adopt a mileage tax. If this passes, California would be the second state in the nation to have a mileage-based tax. In Los Angeles, Alexi Chibachin for Valley View News.
One of the most popular restaurants in the country will be closed in the Pacific Northwest. Chipotle Mexican restaurant has closed more than 40 stores in Oregon and Washington after a breakout of E. coli. More than 20 people have gotten sick as a result of the outbreak. Sources say this is the third type of illness at the chain in the past 3 months.
Skid Row in Los Angeles is not usually associated with art and music, but a festival in the area celebrates the creative side of some of the people who live on the streets. Valley View News reporter Serena Sandoval reports on the artists who joined in the event.
The sound of drums is not something you always hear on Skid Row. Once a year, the Los Angeles Poverty Department puts together a festival for Skid Row artists. Lee Boppin has lived on Skid Row for 15 years. He is an artist who participates in each event.
My inspiration is to make people scream and holler at me when I be trying to entertain and things like that there, because it's all for the people.
For the people like Ruben Garcia.
I'm here to support the Skid Row artists, to lend my support and moral support, and to do whatever I can to contribute to the positive vibes here in Gladys Park.
And those vibes range from James Brown to 60s pop.
It shows what happens when people are supported. There's an incredible amount of positivity here. It reframes the notion of Skid Row as a place of hope, as opposed to a place of desolation.
Organizers go to the streets of Skid Row to find these artists. They say it is a way for people's work to be seen and heard. People can go years and years living by themselves on Skid Row, but today is a day they can come together and share their lives through their art. In Skid Row, Serena Sandoval, Valley View News.
Former U.S. Senator and presidential candidate Fred Thompson has died. Thompson died from lymphoma at the age of 73. Lymphoma is a form of cancer that affects the immune system. Thompson was an attorney and an actor. He starred in some prominent films and television series. As a politician, Thompson was a U.S. Senator from Tennessee. He campaigned for the Republican presidential nomination in 2008, but lost.
Australia will no longer appoint knights and dames under its system of honoring service to the country. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull says Queen Elizabeth II has agreed to let Australia stop using the titles.
They're out of date, they're not appropriate in 2015 in Australia.
This year marks the 40th anniversary of the honor system, which recognizes people who've shown outstanding service to Australia. Those who were appointed knights and dames in the past can keep their titles.
Many pet owners wouldn't know what to do if their dog or cat was hurt or suffered a medical emergency, but there are courses that can teach them. Maria Leal joins us from the newsroom with more about how to save pets.
The American Animal Hospital Association says nearly 90% of pets will experience a medical emergency in their lifetime. Experts say if pet owners use at least one first aid technique, it can increase the chance their pet will survive. A pet first aid course in Temple City shows how to do it.
On your mark, get set,
go! These are pet owners who are on a race to learn how to give their pets a fighting chance to survive. They are learning how to muzzle their pets so it won't bite in case it needs emergency care. Navigaska, who owns a 10-year-old dog, says that she wants to be ready for any injuries or breathing problems.
We're learning a lot about how to rescue animals when, in situations where they're not breathing or their heart stops, how we find out what to do and then what to do when we know what's going on. So it's very helpful.
Pet owners attended this 6-hour course and performed rescue breathing on plush cats and dogs. This technique requires a set of 30-second compressions in order to provide CPR. Pet CPR instructor says that the main goal is for pet owners to feel that they have the skills to help their pet.
I think a lot of times people think that it's just, you put that away to an animal clinic, I'm not a professional, therefore there's no way I could help out, but you can.
Here it goes. Being aware can prevent emergencies from happening, such as choking, being bitten, or bad weather dangers. Andrew Guerrero says that being calm during any emergency will help by providing peace of mind.
It's always good to react with a level head and kind of rely on what you've been taught.
This type of training can save a pet's life. It helps identify signs and symptoms a pet may develop. These are first aid techniques that are easy to learn and can be done just about anywhere. Now back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Maria. When we get back, the Kansas City Royals have won the World Series in a long final game.
The Denver Broncos are keeping their undefeated season alive, and the Lakers are 3 games into the season without a single win.
Here's Jordan Salcedo with the latest in sports in a World Series that went into extra innings.
Thank you. The Kansas City Royals won the World Series, battling the New York Mets in a 12-inning game that ran past midnight. Mets starter Matt Harvey held the Royals scoreless for 8 innings, giving hope to Mets fans they'd head to Game 7. He lost a shutout in the 9th inning after a walk scored from a double that hit the wall. It all went downhill from there for New York. The Mets made errors and the Royals had clutch hitting. Closer Wade Davis caught Mets shortstop Wilmer Flores with the 95-mile-per-hour fastball for the last out of the game. By the end of the 12th inning, the Royals celebrated with a final score of 7-2. The Denver Broncos beat the Green Bay Packers and remain undefeated. Quarterback Peyton Manning gets much of the credit. Both teams met in Denver with records of 6-0. Many of Manning's passes were not spirals, but he managed to find his targets anyway. He completed 21 out of 29 passes for 340 yards. He also had a lot of help from running back C.J. Anderson. He carried the ball 14 times for 101 yards and a touchdown. The Broncos gained 500 yards of offense while the Packers only had 150. Top-ranked quarterback Aaron Rodgers had a rough day. He completed only 14 of 22 passes for just 77 yards. It was the first time in his career that Rodgers started and played the entire game but never got past 100 yards. The Broncos picked up the win with a final score of 29-10. The Lakers have begun a new season with 3 straight losses. And that's not the worst part. LA lost to teams that aren't even expected to make the playoffs this season. Let's call them non-elite, okay? Those 3 teams, along with the Lakers, are expected to be among the 7 lottery teams in the West. Losses to struggling teams are a grim start to a playoff chase for the Lakers. Even Kobe Bryant seems down, referring to himself as a number 200 player in the league. Maybe it can only get better. Maybe. The University of Miami gets an award for the strangest kickoff returns. 91 yards with 8 laterals. 8 laterals. It happened in the final seconds of the game against Duke. The Blue Devils had the game in their grasp but let it go. Miami's 91-yard lateral circus gave them a 30-27 victory over Duke. It was a first game for Miami coach Larry Scott. Wow, that was a crazy trick play. That's all for sports. Back to you.
Thank you, Jordan. When we get back, Taylor Swift is being sued for her hit song, Shake It Off.
Donald Trump says he refused to be on John Oliver's show, and some movies continue to see huge losses at the box office.
Let's send it over to Ayo Adelaja with the latest in entertainment news. Ayo, what happened with Taylor Swift this time?
It seems that there's a pop star that will never, ever stop getting sued. Singer Jesse Barham is suing Taylor Swift for using his lyrics in one of her hit songs. Barham claims that he copyrighted the phrases, "haters gonna hate" and "play is gonna play," which Swift uses in her single Shake It Off. Barham is suing for $42 million. He says that without his song Haters Gonna Hate, there would be no Shake It Off. Swift's representatives haven't commented on the situation yet, so it looks like Taylor Swift and Jesse Barham have some bad blood. October was not a good month for the box office. Since Halloween fell on a weekend this year, many people didn't go to the movies. Films starring Sandra Bullock and Bradley Cooper were among the movies that flopped. The box office totaled $74 million, making it the worst-grossing weekend of the year. An angry Justin Bieber walked off the stage and cut his concert short in one of his appearances in Norway. Fans in the front row threw water on stage during one of his performances. Bieber was trying to clean up the mess, but fans were grabbing and pulling him. The disruptive fans wouldn't leave the singer alone, so he left the stage. He later took to Instagram and wrote an explanation and said he was sorry for not finishing the show. Adele's new hit single, Hello, has sold 1.11 million copies in its first week. Adele's 2012 hit Skyfall took 11 weeks to sell as many copies as Hello did in its first week. The 27-year-old says hello to the #1 on Billboard's Hot 100. Adele follows Elton John as the second English artist to be at the #1 spot. She also broke the record for one-week sales by a female artist in the U.S. Donald Trump is making headlines again, but this time it's because what he said on Twitter. Trump tweeted that he was asked to be on the Last Week Tonight show, but said no thanks because the show is very boring and low-rated. However, according to the Last Week Tonight Twitter account, Trump was never asked to be on the show in the first place. This all comes after Last Week Tonight show host, John Oliver, expressed his disinterest in Donald Trump. Don't know if any other shows would have the courage to invite Donald Trump after something like that. That's it for entertainment. Back to you guys.
Thank you for watching this edition of Valley View News. I'm Helen Mora.
And I'm Joanna Guzman. Have a great day.